Hello and welcome. It's Beck and Deb here, and welcome to this week's show. We've got a fantastic show lined up for you, a great question and a fantastic topic. But before that, as always, we just wanted to let you know a couple of things that are coming up. If you haven't joined us yet, there's still time. Relationship School Live. It starts again in September, and we cannot wait. We had so much fun in April and May.
We did indeed, and we're super excited.
We had a great crowd with us, and it's not too late to be part of the new crowd. So we start at the beginning of September, and it's all on our website, daretobeyou.co.uk. And now is the time to get in, because it is just growing and becoming a beautiful community to be a part of.
It is indeed.
So if you're a little bit like us, a recovering people pleaser, or if you're in that space of not feeling quite good enough, but know that you want to see that you are, this is the place to be. It's all about you. Great relationships start with you. So we would love to have you as a part of that. So do have a look on our website or drop us a message.
I was just going to say, feel free to comment or message us. Get in touch if you've got any questions or anything. And then the other exciting thing that's going on is we have been allowed to book a retreat, an in-person, come and join us, be in the room retreat, obviously with all safety stuff and what have you in place. But we've been really lucky that from the 2nd to the 5th of October, we've been allowed to book a retreat. So if you would like to join us, get in touch with us, because we're not actually taking money for that retreat yet, but we can send you the details. And when we have actually been allowed to properly confirm it and we 100% know we're going, then if you're on that list, we know you're interested, we can let you know as a first, one of the first people to be in, because I just can't wait to be back in a room with people.
I know, it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, it will be really, really lovely. So we're really hoping that will go ahead, but as I said, we have been allowed to book the venue, and we are asking people if they are interested and would like to join us to let us know, so that we can keep you informed of the progress.
Get in touch about that too.
Please do.
It'd be great to be with real human beings in a room.
There is something really beautiful about being in a room with people.
Really is. So on with the show. So our question this week is, how do I reach out to someone who is lost? And we picked this question because we'd actually had a few conversations, and interestingly, it's where I was the lost person, and Deb and Lucy, my sister, were the people that were trying to reach out to me a few years ago. So we've kind of all had some experience around that too. But it's been something that's come up in conversation a few times recently with different people. Kind of, what is it like? What we share is extremely helpful, and yet sometimes, if someone is feeling lost or alone, they don't want to hear it, or they're not ready to hear it. And that can be, that can feel quite difficult if you're the person that is looking at a loved one and wanting to reach out and help them, but they're perhaps not ready to hear you. So that's kind of, it's a really good question, and it's a really interesting conversation to kind of have around.
It really is, because I can remember when Lucy was speaking to me. Lucy and I used to regularly speak each week, and I know that Lucy was incredibly concerned about you, and from what people know about your story, you were not in a great place. You were really struggling with life. You were not you were not on a good path. You were not, you were very, very lost. And each week Lou would come with, Deb, we need to find a way to get to bed. We need to do this. And I know for me, obviously I cared about Beck too, and I really wanted to, if I could have hit her around the face with a wet fish, or maybe.
Thankfully she didn't.
No, I didn't. It was often jokingly what we would say. We just smack her over the head with a wet fish and make her listen. It wasn't easy being on that side of it, but the one thing that I absolutely knew, and the conversations that Lou and I would have again and again and again, was to deepen our grounding and continue to stay in that grounding with the knowing that Beck also had, in this conversation, the things we talk about is that every human being has an inner guidance system. And it's really been interesting having some conversations with Lou recently about all the stuff that she's seen through, and what she's confessed to us is knowing that, but not being quite ready within herself yet to face that. And what I see about that wisdom is, I can see for me, I was lost for years. And then all of a sudden I was ready to face that, ready to look at something. And to me, it looks like the moment somebody is ready, then they reach out in that way. But your job, if you have got someone in your life who you can look at them and you can say, oh gosh, if only they knew this, that it would be so much easier, or if only they would listen to me, or if only they would get help, if only they would do something, they're on self-destruct, they're not going in a great direction, they used to be this amazing person, and I'm watching them, send their life down the toilet, and it's all these things, isn't it?
yeah, we can really do that, can't we? Kind of get right up into our story about somebody else,
and how they should be different.
And very much for me, the thing that, having been on both sides, because I've also looked at friends and family and want to reach out to them, the real thing here is first and foremost to start with you. Absolutely. To kind of see through the story that we carry about other people and where they are is actually not helpful to us or to them. So as we begin to look, and that's the invitation here, is to start to look for your okayness first, and to really go to that place of, if they never want me to kind of help them or talk to them, can I see my okayness? And can I see their okayness? And just be curious about that. It doesn't have to be, it can feel like such a burden when we think somebody is struggling and it's on us to help them. But just to kind of lighten the load and see that we are always okay. There's something about us here. There's an essence about who we are that is never damaged. And we were talking to somebody yesterday about their inner diamond, and you could really see that as we had that conversation, something in her connected and saw that was possible. She saw the place where it was possible that she had an undamageable diamond. And I think for me, it's always when I start to go into somebody else's business, when I start to look at someone and think that they are lost, I have just for a moment forgotten that I have a diamond and so do they. And as I come back round to that, if I polish my diamond for a minute, it just reconnects me with something that is way beyond any stories that they might have or I might have.
And I think if you have got a well polished and shiny diamond, people can see that. And the second they are ready, they will come to you. And when someone comes to you because they have seen something in you, that's when they are ready to hear. That's when they are ready for something to be different. And what was occurring to me when you were speaking is that when we're in that place of thinking someone else should change, and trust me, I have been there, with other family members, my son, my daughter, it's been like, oh, they need to be like this, they need to hear this, they need to be different. When we are in that place, the interesting question to look at for yourself is, you are asking them to be different. That's what's going on for you. You're like, they should be different. Well, for me, what I see in that now is, what about if I turn that round on me? And what we're suggesting here is that you look back at you and you deepen your understanding for yourself. And if that other person, if you're watching someone else and they are not specifically reaching out to you for help, if they're not specifically asking you something, you're trying to put something onto them that they're not quite ready for. But it's really interesting when you turn it around on yourself and go, well, how about if I show up differently? How about if I look for my inner diamond and I do something different? And you can feel what comes up in you very often is, no, this isn't about me, that's about them. And you begin to see what's going on for them. You begin to get a feel that when you show up in that space, asking them to be different, those feelings that come up in you when you turn that back on yourself is what's happening for them. So it's a really helpful way to hear that other person from inside you, You know, when you start saying, right, okay, so what if I look to my inner diamond? What if I look to change? What if I look to be different? If what happens for you is, well, no, actually, no, that's totally the wrong direction. I'm all right. This other person needs to do something different. It's them that needs help, not me. Well, that's coming up in you is exactly what is coming up in them when you want to help them, when you see them as not okay as they are, when you see them as needing to change. That's what's happening in them. And if you struggle to get past that resistance within yourself, just sit for a minute and understand that's what's going on for them. That's how it's difficult for them to get past that resistance and hear you. And for me, when we just get quiet and love ourselves and get to that place and see, right, okay, I don't need to resist this help. Actually, if I look back to myself, if I change, the dynamics have to change, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing, like the other thing that occurs to me is, if that person is in some way in a position where reaching out to them, like in a kind of physical way, you know, going to see them or making a call to them, doesn't feel quite right for some reason right now. One of the things that I really see is that we don't have to do that out in the physical world. We are this creative essence. We are this energy, you know, God and the universe, whatever you want to call that. That is who and what we are too. And so we can start by reaching out to them just in our own hearts, in our own minds,
Absolutely.
with kindness and love. And that sometimes that's enough. If we're not able, you know, if there's a person we can't, I know when I was lost, if Deb and Lou had tried to talk to me, I would have absolutely blocked. I would never have been rude because I wasn't, you know, that wasn't quite who I was at that time. But I would have just, you know, yeah, that's really nice, thanks, you know, roll my eyes kind of thing. I wouldn't have wanted to hear it, you know, on some level. And yet when things kind of hit the floor for me, they were the people I reached out to. Because actually in the background what they were doing was being kind and loving, without actually having to necessarily have a conversation with me at the time.
We definitely discussed that, and we definitely were sending love and healing. We were speaking about you in that way and kind of, you know, saying like, we just love Beck and how can we show that? And I know that is certainly something we do with clients, with people we speak to, anyone we have conversations with. Afterwards, it is kind of like, how can we just send love and healing and help to that person? And that, I think, just being that presence in the world.
I fill up my own heart and mind with love and kindness.
Absolutely.
That can't help but spill over. And it is, for me, it's also like what we start to see then is it's not always me directly that reaches out to that person. There are sometimes I'm not the right person to do that. As it happened in the scenario we were just talking about, Deb and Lou were. But I can see that there are times when someone is struggling, and from a place where I fill my heart with love and kindness, something else comes into their path, and it might not be me, because, you know, I'm not the savior of the world. I'm here just to be the best that I can be, and that's enough. And we forget that sometimes. We forget that it's enough that I turn up to be me, and it might not be me as Becky that is the person that's going to help that person I'm looking at. But if I'm turning up and doing the best I can from a place of love and kindness, the right things will come into that person's life at the right time.
And I think that's a biggie as well, because I think we have an idea of what the right time is. We have an idea of when our loved ones, our people need to be saved and need to be different. And I definitely think dropping our ideas of the time scale is a really good idea, because we just get ourselves into a mess. We're the ones then that are in pain and suffering when we believe something should be different to how it is. So getting used to that, and just like when you were talking then, what I was really seeing is just love that person exactly as they are right now. Because very often when we've got this idea that someone is lost and struggling, we almost suspend our love because we want to fix them first. And to me, it works the exact opposite way around. If we can look to love and generosity within us and just show up and love that person, even if they're not doing everything you think they should be doing, to the best of your ability. And sometimes, I know there have definitely been people in my life at times where the most loving and kindest thing for me first is not to have that person in my life for a while. You know, sometimes our nearest and dearest, when they are lost, we can tell ourselves that story that we are responsible, we can't give up, we can't move away, we can't do. And to me, it's not giving up when we truly learn to put ourselves first and love ourselves. Sometimes we have to step away, and it is okay to not have someone in your life if it really isn't right for you at that point. Because I think when we find our own grounding, sometimes we can't find our own grounding when our head is so full of worry or something for someone else. And sometimes we just need that love and kindness for us first.
It just reminds me of the metaphor. Well, it's not even a metaphor, it's what they actually say. If you're ever on a plane and they say put your own oxygen mask on first, if there's a problem and the oxygen masks drop down, put your own on first before you help anyone else. And that is essentially what we are saying here.
Yes.
If you're looking at someone that you feel is lost and you want to reach out, make sure you've got your own oxygen first. Because what comes from there, sometimes you will just notice you are reaching out and that's perfect and they're turning to you and that's helpful. I know that's happened with Deb and her son, but you know, it took 6-7 years of Deb, you know, taking her own oxygen before he went, right, I'm ready, Mom, tell me something. And it is seeing that, you know, on Deb's timescales, that would have been 6 or 7 minutes, and it's been 6 or 7 years, but she's continued to find her feet in this and to take that healthy oxygen, and at the time that he was ready, you know. And that is, there's a reason why they say on a plane, take your own oxygen first, because within minutes you can be passed out and you're of no help to anybody.
And definitely getting your own house in order, you know, your own internal stuff in order is that is what is going on when we look at someone else and we feel that this need to reach out for them. That is telling us something about us. It's not, it really feels, and the more desperate we feel about that, because I know I was in a desperate place with my son for quite some time, and the more desperate I was, the more repellent I was, the more that almost sent him into a tailspin. And then the more that I looked to myself, the more that I looked internally for me, and I self-righted. And with both Beck and my son, I've had conversations since, and both of them have said, oh my gosh, that must have been hard for you to watch that and to see that. But also I hear that they saw stuff and it was helpful for them, even when they weren't saying anything to us, and even things were shifting and things were happening, even when it didn't look like it on the outside, even when their behavior was possibly the same on the outside and in the world, things were shifting internally as I self-righted. And so this is, if we are in that place of being really concerned for someone else, however much it is, it's tempting to believe that that is about the other person. And believe me, you know, I can get drawn into those stories when somebody is damaging themselves, you know, they're self-harming or they're drinking or they're in a really unhealthy relationship, which it looks as plain as day to me they shouldn't be there. It can be really easy to really get into that story and think something needs to be different for them, and this is about them, not about me. And what my invitation really off the back of this is to get curious and see, how can that be something? How can you bring that back to you? And how can you fill up your, you know, take your own oxygen, fill up your own water jug, self-right, whatever words make sense to you. Because that's what that feeling is telling you. It's pointing you back to you, not towards that other person. And believe me, it really did look like it was about the other person when I was in that position. So I totally get it. But I think that's an invitation, isn't it, to get curious and see what you see from there.
Yeah. So our topic this week is the 3 most dangerous words. And we chose that topic. We were actually listening to something around some social media stuff that we were doing, and we were listening to a program about it, and the person talking was actually, that was his topic, he was talking about that, and he said, do you know what the 3 most dangerous words are in the English language? And then he shared them, so we'll do that in a minute. But I just want to put a little caveat, a little star over the word dangerous, because actually what we share and what we're pointing to here is that we live in a very safe universe. So the dangerous is slightly tongue-in-cheek, just to lead into the topic. There's nothing dangerous here at all, really.
Absolutely.
But the words are, I know that. And the reason that they are dangerous, the reason that we're going to talk about those, is because when we turn up from a space of, I know that, I already know, that's something I know, we close our minds. That's a statement, and it closes our minds. And what we're pointing to, and what this conversation is hugely about for us, and the reason we call it a conversation, is because that opens our minds when we put question marks at the end of what we're talking about. Do I know that? Is there something new for me to know here? Is actually far more helpful.
Yeah, and that's it really, isn't it? This whole conversation is about opening our minds, because human beings, the possibilities for us are endless. You know, we live in a universe that is infinite. The intelligence that created everything that we see, the intelligence behind life that animates us, that grows everything, that, you know, creates trees and flowers, the intelligence behind this is an infinite intelligence, and it would be impossible for us to truly know that intelligence from a human perspective, from the, you know, what we've got here with our brain and what happens here. It would be impossible for us to truly know the infinite nature. And the minute we say, I know that, like exactly like Bex says, that just puts a full stop there, and we begin to look in a different direction. We just throw that out. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We stop listening. We stop trying to hear something new. And I know when I first came to this conversation, pretty much every event, every training, everything that I did, it always started with the put everything you know, as you walk into this room or as you join this conversation, put everything that you think you know in a box by the door. You can have it back. You know, you don't have to lose. If it's been helpful for you, pick it up on the way out again. But for now, just suspend what you think you already know. And I think that is hugely helpful, because what we share here, this conversation, is incredibly narrow, really. There isn't much here. You know, we could probably sort of say to you,
sum it up in 2 sentences.
Yeah, you absolutely could. You could sum it up in a very short way. We could squish it in, and there wouldn't be an awful lot. But the depth to which we can continue to hear that, it's almost like, you know, working out, oh my gosh, I've got a nose, and then the next day saying, no, Beck, I know I said I knew I've got a nose, but no, do you understand, I've actually got a nose? And then a bit later it's like, oh, I thought I knew I had a nose, but I've got a nose. And it's like, it doesn't feel like there's something different, but as our depth of understanding, the same words mean something more and more and more to us. And if we hear, I've got a nose, yeah, I already know that, then all you ever know is I've got a nose. You don't know, oh my goodness, my mind has been blown. I actually realise I've got a nose. There's something completely different about that, isn't there?
Yeah, and it is very much like anything that we point to in this kind of conversation is about you seeing something new, you seeing something that a minute ago just wasn't there. And I don't know if you've ever had that kind of experience. There's a slightly funny example in our house the other day. We organise, we're fairly organised with some of the stuff that we do
Beck
here.
Is fairly organised.
And each week we kind of organise what meals we're going to have so that we can order the food and have the shopping available and that sort of thing. And we kind of have it, you know, we have it up on the board. This is what we're eating tonight, and play around with it a little bit. But mostly it's like, this is our meals for the evening because that's what we brought on the shopping. And the other night, I think we were perhaps on a call or something like that, and Deb's partner Russ, it was on the board that he was having a pizza. And I knew there was a pizza in the freezer because we'd not eaten it from the week before, something like that. So I knew it was there, and I'd seen it when I'd had mine earlier that week. And when we came off the call a bit later, I think Deb had said to us, "Oh, did you have your pizza?" "Oh no, I couldn't find it. It wasn't in the freezer." And it's very much like, to my mind, what this conversation is going is kind of, is it in the freezer? Instead of, it's not in the freezer. It's like, it's not in the freezer is a closed statement. That's it. There's nothing more to see. Is it in the freezer? The pizza, it should be. That's where it was.
Spoiler alert, it was in the freezer.
But it's that somehow, and I'm not picking on Russ at all, because I know how I can do the same thing.
Oh gosh, me too.
With hundreds of examples of how, in my mind, something isn't there.
Very, very often when I'm looking for something, I'll say to you when I've looked, am I just looking straight at it and not seeing it?
And it's as soon as we put that question in our mind, is it there? What can I see? What don't I know yet? Do I know that, or is there something new? It just, something new becomes available. And I will regularly do that. If I'm kind of doing something, if something's happening for me, whatever situation is in life, if something's going on, I notice that very quickly my mind goes, what am I not seeing here? If I'm feeling uncomfortable about something, or something's happened in the house or in life or with my partner, I might have a moment of, no, I know that, feeling blank. I know my partner should have. I know Deb didn't. I know Russ had a pizza. Then something comes into my mind. What am I not seeing here? Because the minute I tell myself I know something, everything else becomes unknown to me. I can't know it because I've closed my mind down. Everything else is kind of like, it just gets faded out. It doesn't exist now. I know. And
it's like one of those grayed buttons when you're on your computer and trying to click a button and it's just grayed out. That's not available anymore. No, you already know this, none of this is now available to you.
Exactly that. It's like we grey everything else out, and the only thing that's available is this tiny box. And the minute my mind kind of invites me, what are you not seeing here? What don't you know yet? What could be available? And all sorts of variations of that. It always has a question mark at the end. And when my mind offers me a question instead of an I know, something different becomes available. And it's not always instant. If I'm kind of toying around with stuff, which I generally do.
Goes back to our timings again. It's not necessarily always on our time.
Not always instant. But one of the things I do a lot is kind of, I have something that I'm playing around with in my mind. What if that isn't how it is? What if there's something different to be seen here? And at some point, and often, that whatever it is that I'm toying around with, a few days later, I've just forgotten all about it. Life's given me something else to play with. And a week later, a month later, a year later, oh, that thing I thought I knew that I got curious about, I've seen something around it. I've seen something different around it. It's come back to me. It's come back in a new way. And it just, for me, I really find that is the best life experience that I can have. And that's, as far as I can see, that's kind of what we're here for, an experience of life, isn't it?
Totally. And we're actually wired, made, built, whatever words you want to put on it, to live in a world where we don't know. And our mind is really, really fond of trying to nail it down and saying, I know this, I know this. And over the last few months, we have watched Lucy come out of herself in ways. On the screen here behind us, there's 3 beautiful paintings, and if you'd have asked me a year ago, I would have had no idea that these were possible, that Lucy could create this amazing, beautiful art. And to me, when we acknowledge that we live in a don't know world, and when we don't allow our mind to clamp down on that I know and to make its home in I know, what is available to us is amazing. When we just open ourselves up and be, well, I just don't know. I don't know this. And to me, that is one of the deepest spiritual teachings, to say we can put all those burdens, we can put all that onto this intelligence behind life. We don't have to know. We've been built actually not to know, and then to have the most amazing, beautiful surprises of what comes from that place, and what can actually come to us when we stop, when we look at what we do know. It's such a small amount, and when it's like fishing in a tiny little pond. But when we open up to, I don't know, it's almost like we open up to the entire sea in the entire world, and we're fishing there, and what can be found there is unbelievable. It's amazing. So
So that was our topic for this week. We'd love to hear from you what you kind of heard in that, if it brought anything up for you, the question or the topic, and you'd like to be in touch. There's lots of ways to connect with us, so do get in touch.
Yes, and when we work with people close and we dive deeper into these topics, so if any of these things brought something up for you and you want to dive deeper with us,
wherever you're watching this, we're on YouTube, Dare to Be You. We're on Facebook, Dare to Be You with a purple heart. We have a website, daretobeyou.co.uk, and we're on LinkedIn as Deborah Simmons.
We are indeed.
So find us somewhere and get in touch. We always love to hear from people. So next week, our topic is recovering people pleaser.
And our question is, will I always be second best?
A very good relationship question.
Absolutely. So join us next week for our show, and we're in lots of other places as well. So please, do get in touch, find out where we are. We're always up to something, and it would be really, really great to connect with you somewhere. So take care, have a really great week, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.